Hello there, again, only me, having a pink vape today. The yellow vape that I was smoking in the video yesterday, I gave it to another guy on the ward. He was like, "Can I have a toke on that?" And he sort of walked off with it. And then he was like, "I'll give it back to you." And then I was like, "I don't think you did." So if that places me at the scene of a location I'm not at because it was vaguely visible in my hand in the video, then I can't make any explanations or excuses for that. Just thought of a really deep thought. I was just chatting with somebody and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to share that on the internet. So years ago, when I was living at 12 Market Close, I got a knock on the door from the Jehovah's Witnesses, who I'm always polite to, and I always kind of give the time of day, because ultimately they're trying to sort of, I think, do something which is arguably noble, if not kind of like inherently dogmatic and, prejudice in its condemnation of certain demographics of society. But without getting into the ins and outs of Jehovah's Witnesses, they had an article in their magazine that they give out, the Watchtower, and it was all about DNA and RNA and prokaryotic, eukaryotic organisms. So in a nutshell, without banging on about it for too long, I was just saying to somebody in the living room, there's like a paradox called the Fermi paradox. And that is that there's something like, don't quote me on it because I'm not a scientist, and I've only got a B in drama and a D in maths, as you can probably tell. And I don't know anything about science or physiology or sort of psychologically infinitesimally improbable coincidences, but you've got the Fermi paradox, which says there's something like 2 trillion galaxies, and each one has 400 billion stars, and each of those 400 billion stars potentially has a load of planets around it. So the chance that we haven't ever been contacted by alien life is like a paradox. It exists as a mathematical paradox, yeah. Then you've got the concept of DNA and RNA. Apparently, from what I read into it after I started Googling it years ago, the likelihood, the guy who discovered DNA, I think he was like nominated for 2 Nobel Peace Prizes or something, but when he discovered the double helix, the first DNA, I always want to call it attack, decay, sustain and release, like from music production, but it's like, it's 4 letters. They use it to make hard drives instead of binary, whoops. And yeah, so there's 4 elements of DNA, and his quote, his famous quote, was something along the lines of, if I could draw like a metaphor, he said, the idea of these 4 elements sort of randomly combining themselves into this double helix crystalline molecule is about as likely as a fully functioning 747 jumbo jet being formed in a hurricane in a scrapyard. I mean, yes, these elements exist within stardust and on meteorites and in space and on our planet, but for them to form into DNA, it's mentally improbable. And for DNA to exist, that's just like single-celled organisms, yeah? So like amoebas or bacteria have a single cell. But for multi-celled organisms, the difference between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, for multi-celled organisms to exist, DNA and RNA, ribonucleic acid, have to exist at the same time, at the same place, with the right conditions. And here's the bit that kind of blows your mind. They have to be compatible. So it would be a bit like being at a lake in like a mine, somewhere, and sort of being like, well, there's naturally occurring elements, in this kind of area, aluminium, tin, nickel, iron ore, copper, whatever. But I've just found like a Yale lock, like a padlock on the beach, and it just seems to have assembled itself. And that's like DNA existing, yeah? That's the chance of DNA having assembled itself without a divine creator. Not that I'm religious or believe in intelligent design, but I mean, like, I don't disbelieve it. not religion, intelligent design. So, you know, if you really think about that, if you read into it, Google it, you know, prokaryotic, eukaryotic organisms. So the cells, the RNA has to be compatible with the DNA, which is a bit like finding the key to your padlock, kind of at the same place that you find the padlock. And it's so mental if you think about it. I mean, I'm mental, I'm in a psychiatric institute, and maybe this whole thing is driving me mental. I hope it doesn't drive you mental. But yeah, that chance of that DNA existing, it's on its own, is so infinitesimally improbable. And then for multi-celled organisms, where the cells subdivide and subdivide and subdivide and subdivide, is sort of so improbable that it almost matches the Fermi paradox, in that there's 2 trillion stars, each with, 2 trillion galaxies, some with 400 billion stars on average. Like, AI doesn't know, apparently, like the deep state and all the kind of whoever really runs the secret space programs in the world doesn't even know how many stars there are. Just to finish, the other, not gallery, no, camera. Yeah. So the other bit, just to tickle your neurons, which is quite interesting, is the idea that if there was intelligent life that was like, 1,000 light years away, or like 5,000 light years away, which is like 100th of a millimeter in galactical terms. Like, the galaxy's absolutely massive, jungle is massive, and they would be seeing us from, if they had a telescope and they could view our planet, they would be seeing us kind of like sort of wandering around the undergrowth, gobbling frogs and slugs and leaves as a nomadic people, prehistoric, with no civilization or technological capacity at all, because the light, a bit like we still see stars in our sky that don't have any, they don't exist anymore, they're just shafts of light. The star itself has ceased to exist, but the shaft of light still exists, so we still perceive it in our night sky. So there might be aliens that know that we're here, and it's just that they looked at our planet and just saw maybe nothing at all, or maybe just some cavemen. But anyway, if anyone wants to do a DNA test on me, I'm happy to sell my DNA. I'll provide a sample of saliva or a swab, and you can test my DNA, and I'll happily sell that to you for £1. If anyone would like to contact me and buy any of my DNA, so you can see who my family are and what are the chances of me sharing DNA with anyone who I'm related to, my children or my siblings, then contact me. Get me on Twitter, or email, or carrier pigeon, or just walk to the hospital if they'll allow visitors to just ring on the doorbell and they'd like to provide a sample of DNA. I don't have a gene sequencer. I can't afford one on my current fixed income. Can't even afford these vapes, really. I got this off of one of the other service users. But thanks for watching, and have a good day, you beautiful, infinitesimally unlikely and magnificent, miraculous beings.